The Ritz-Carlton's ballroom looked exactly as I'd imagined for Brooklyn Heights High's 15-year reunion. Overpriced decor in our school colors. A DJ stuck on 2009 hits, and round tables filled with people trying to prove they'd made it. I sipped a sparkling water at a back table, watching my former classmates trade stories about promotions, vacation homes, and kids in private school. Most looked just as I remembered, just a little grayer, a little rounder. Naomi Parker? The voice came from Tessa Monroe, former cheer captain and now a pharmaceutical sales rep, according to her LinkedIn profile. The same profile I'd glanced at after she tagged me in an avalanche of reunion posts. "How are you doing? I can't believe you actually came," she said, pulling me into a hug that lasted just long enough to assess my thrift store blazer and lack of flashy jewelry. "You look exactly the same," she smiled. Not quite a compliment. "Still a Goodwill fan?" "Something like that." "Well, good for you. I wasn't sure you'd show up after—" She glanced around. "You know. The whole thing with your little company. I heard it tanked." Right. 15 years out of high school and 4 years ago they'd all witnessed what looked like the spectacular failure of my startup, a boutique AI firm that supposedly burned through cash and shut down after 18 months, sending me back home to my parents. What they never knew, the collapse was deliberate. A restructuring, a shell game to shed deadweight investors. "These things happen," I said with a shrug. "Exactly," she patted my arm. "Failure's just a step toward success. You'll figure something out." "Sure I will. By the way, they're doing superlatives. Most successful, most traveled. You should check it out." Then she floated off toward a shinier networking target. I returned to my table and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my assistant, 2 from my publicist, 1 from Forbes. Perfect timing. Tonight, they'd hand out a tacky plaque for most successful. Tomorrow, my Forbes cover story would hit newsstands. Naomi Parker, CEO of Orion Dynamics. The woman who quietly built a $3.2 billion 0-cents empire. The voice belonged to Ethan Granger, former varsity soccer captain and current regional manager at his uncle's logistics company. He strolled over with a grin a little too wide, the kind fueled by expensive scotch and nostalgia. "Naomi Parker, good to see you," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Heard about your company folding, tough break." I smiled politely. "Something like that." "But hey," he continued, "at least you tried. Most people don't even have the guts to launch a business." "True," I said evenly. "You working anywhere now? I could put in a word, nothing glamorous, but steady paycheck, decent benefits. My uncle's always looking for reliable people." "Thanks, I'll keep it in mind." "Seriously though," he pressed, "what are you doing these days?" The question I'd been dodging all night. "Consulting," I said, which was true. Though my clients were Fortune 100 companies and heads of state, not mom-and-pop shops. "Consulting on what?" "Business strategy, tech integration, that sort of thing." "Ah," he nodded, with mock understanding, clearly translating that to between jobs. "Well, if you want real stability, logistics is the way to go." After he wandered off, I considered leaving. The evening was exactly the small-town theater I'd expected, and tomorrow's board meeting on quarterly earnings was far more important. But then the DJ's music cut, and a mic squealed at the front of the room. Our old class president, now a councilman with a too-perfect smile, stepped up. If only I'd—" "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Superlative Awards," he announced. "We asked everyone to vote. Some of the results might surprise you." Polite applause. "Most successful," he said, scanning the list. "This one was unanimous. Congratulations to Jennifer Walsh for making partner at Crawford, Harris & Stone." Jennifer walked up to genuine cheers. Partner at 31 was no small feat. "Next up." He paused mid-sentence, eyes flicking toward the back of the room, where my phone lit up again. My publicist's name flashed across the screen, along with a preview of tomorrow's headline. Forbes, Naomi Parker, the billionaire behind Orion Dynamics. More applause. Michael had always been brilliant, and his banking career in Tokyo was exactly the kind of thing that drew admiration at a reunion. The awards rolled on. Biggest family, best dressed, least changed, most changed. I barely listened, glancing at my phone again. Now it was 5 missed calls from Forbes. The MC's voice took on a different tone, half amused, half apologetic. This next category is a little different. We thought it'd be fun to include some honorable mentions, all in good humor, of course. A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. In the spirit of fun, he went on, our last award is for the person voted least successful by their classmates. The room shifted. No one wanted that title. And the honor goes to, he opened the envelope with unnecessary drama, Naomi Parker. The applause was uneasy, half pity, half mockery. I felt 300 pairs of eyes on me. In their minds, I was still the girl whose first company went under, the one doing vague consulting and wearing second-hand blazers. Naomi, come on up, the MC called, waving a cheap certificate. I stood, legs steady, and walked toward the stage. Every step felt deliberate. Then, my phone rang, loud enough to cut through the mic feedback. Heads turned. I glanced at the screen. Forbes magazine. Sorry, I said to the MC, stopping mid-aisle. I should take this. He blinked. Right now? It's important. I swiped to answer on speaker. Naomi Parker. Miss Parker, this is Catherine Williams from Forbes. Just confirming your feature goes live at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Headline reads, Naomi Parker, the billionaire powering the future of AI. From stealth to industry titan. The room went still. I let the words hang there before smiling. Perfect timing, Catherine. Tell the team I'll send over the photos from our Ritz-Carlton event tonight. I hung up, turned toward the audience, and gave a polite nod. Guess I'll pass on the certificate, I said, walking back to my table, leaving the MC frozen and the room buzzing. If you think that was the moment they finally saw me for who I am, you're not ready for what happened next. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. I apologize for calling so late on a Saturday. Catherine's voice was crisp, carrying just enough for the front rows to catch pieces of the conversation. But our editorial board just gave final approval. Final approval for what? I asked, though I already knew. Your cover story for next month's issue, Youngest Billionaire of the Year, how Naomi Parker built a tech empire while everyone thought she'd failed. The ballroom went silent. Even the DJ stopped mid-track. I see, I said evenly. Publication date is next Monday. We'll meet you in New York Tuesday for the photo shoot, then Wednesday you're booked for CNN, CNBC, and Bloomberg. That works for my schedule. Excellent. The piece focuses on how you used your first company's failure as camouflage while building Orion Dynamics into a $12 billion 0-cents AI powerhouse. Our readers are fascinated by stealth entrepreneurs who stay off the radar. $12 billion, 0 cents, someone in the front row whispered. The team was particularly impressed by your acquisition of 17 AI companies in 4 years. Brilliant misdirection. Forbes estimates your personal net worth at $3 billion, $200 million, 0 cents. Is that accurate? In the right neighborhood. And you did this while everyone thought your first startup collapsed? That was the point. Public failure creates privacy. Privacy creates opportunity. Genius strategy. We'll see you Tuesday. I ended the call and slipped the phone into my blazer pocket. Every eye was on me. The MC still held the least successful certificate, but his smirk had been replaced by something between awe and confusion. Did someone just say billionaire? He stammered. $12 billion 0 cents company, I corrected. Personal net worth is only around $3 billion 0 cents. Only, he echoed. Plus or minus a few hundred million, depending on market conditions. A gasp, or maybe a laugh, came from somewhere in the crowd. From the front, Jennifer Walsh called out, Your first company, Data Sync Solutions, that failed 4 years ago. I smiled. Exactly. Orion Dynamics was never meant to be my first success, I explained. My original startup? That was a cover. While everyone thought I was a failed entrepreneur living with my parents, I was quietly building neural flow systems. Neural flow? Michael Chin's face drained of color. The AI company Goldman Sachs has been chasing? Among others, we've had offers from Google, Microsoft, Amazon, more than 20 companies in the past 2 years. And you turned them down? He asked. I'm not interested in being acquired. I'm interested in building something that changes how the world works. Ethan Granger was staring like I'd grown a second head. You've been pretending to be unsuccessful for 4 years? I've been maintaining a low profile while building one of the fastest growing tech companies in history. There's a difference. But why all the secrecy? Because once people know you're successful, everything changes. Every conversation becomes about money. Every relationship is filtered through assumptions about wealth. Every decision is scrutinized by competitors and regulators. I swept my gaze across the ballroom. Tonight, for example, how did you treat me when you thought I was unsuccessful? Silence. You offered me jobs. You gave me advice. You talked to me like a normal classmate. That's valuable. Raw market feedback. Insight into consumer behavior and industry trends. So you were using us for market research? Madison Monroe's voice had an edge. I was maintaining authentic relationships while gathering information on how industries adapt to technological change. Your insights into pharmaceutical sales automation were particularly useful. The inefficiencies you complained about? Orion's healthcare division solved them. She blinked, stunned. So when you said you were consulting, Ethan began. I consult for Fortune 500 companies on AI integration. My hourly rate is $15,000 plus expenses. Though most of my time now is focused on Orion's strategic development, EMC still held the least successful certificate. What do I do with this? Keep it, I smiled. It's technically accurate. I am the least successful person in this room, if you're measuring in dollars. I measure in impact, and I haven't even begun to achieve the impact I'm working toward. I walked back toward my table, but the crowd was on its feet now, voices tumbling over one another with questions, congratulations, and sudden requests for business cards. How did you do it? When did you start Orion? Can you get me a job? Do you remember when we were lab partners? I held up a hand. I'm happy to answer questions, but let me explain something first. The room settled. 4 years ago, when my first startup collapsed, most of you ignored me or treated me with pity. Tonight, you voted me least successful. In both cases, your behavior was reasonable, based on what you knew. But now that you think I'm worth $3 billion, 0 cents, suddenly I'm everyone's long-lost best friend. You're recalling supportive interactions that probably never happened. That's exactly why I stayed under the radar. Money changes relationships, and not often for the better. Jennifer Walsh raised a hand. So what's the point of having money if you can't enjoy it? Who says I'm not enjoying it? I love my work. I love solving problems that matter. The money's just a scorecard. It tells me if my solutions are actually valuable. Better. But don't you want recognition? Status? I want impact. Recognition and status are distractions from the work. Michael Chin stepped forward. The work being AI that serves human needs. Healthcare systems that help doctors make better diagnoses. Education platforms that personalize learning. Financial tools that help people make smarter choices, not just pad a bank's profits. And you built all this while pretending to be unsuccessful? Could you try it again? I built it by focusing entirely on the work, not public perception. The failure was just noise that kept the spotlight off me. My phone rang again. Caller ID, Alicia, assistant. Naomi, I've been trying to reach you. The Wall Street Journal wants to follow up on the Forbes story. TechCrunch is requesting an exclusive on your acquisition strategy. Schedule it all for next week, I said. You're still at your high school reunion? I glanced around at 300 stunned faces, half awe, half resentment. Mission accomplished, I told Alicia before ending the call. The MC was still staring at me like his brain was buffering. So? You're really worth $3 billion, 0 cents? According to Forbes, yes. And you've been building this company for 4 years without anyone knowing? My 17 key employees knew, my board knew, select investors knew, but yes, publicly I kept a very low profile. Why reveal it now? Because Orion Dynamics is going public. Monday morning we file for an IPO. After that, everyone will know the company's value. Anonymity won't be possible. So this is your last night of pretending to be normal? This is my last night of having unfiltered conversations with people who knew me before the headlines. I glanced around the ballroom, faces from my childhood, from awkward teenage years, from a life I'd deliberately stepped away from. For what it's worth, I said, tonight went exactly as expected. You treated me the way people treat someone they believe is unsuccessful, and now you're treating me the way people treat someone they think is wealthy. Both are rational. Both are depressing. Jennifer tilted her head. Or informative. Exactly. Understanding human behavior at this level is critical for building AI that works in the real world. So we were just data points, someone asked. You were people I used to know, behaving exactly how people behave. The research value was a bonus. Ethan stepped forward. I owe you an apology. Why? For offering you a job at my uncle's company. That was you being decent to someone you thought needed help. That's kindness, not an insult. Madison raised her hand. When I made that crack about goodwill, you were making a social assessment based on visible status markers, perfectly normal and accurate. This outfit did cost $12.00. But you could afford anything. I could. But expensive clothes wouldn't make me better at building AI systems. For the next hour, I answered questions about my strategy, my daily routine, and my future plans. Gradually, the crowd thinned, still whispering, still glancing back. Some people seemed genuinely interested in reconnecting as adults. Others were clearly calculating potential business opportunities. A few were still processing the complete collapse of their assumptions about success and failure. As the night wound down, I found myself back at my corner table with the 3 people who'd actually made an effort to stay in touch over the years. Sarah Martinez, now an elementary school teacher, Tom Wilson, managing a nonprofit, and Lisa Kim, a nurse practitioner. So, what happens now? Sarah asked. After the IPO, after Forbes, after everyone knows? Now, I get back to work, I said. We have AI systems to build, problems to solve, and hopefully, a chance to make a positive impact. But your life will be completely different, she said. My work will be the same. Everything else will just get more complicated. Tom picked up the least successful certificate the MC had abandoned on my table. You're going to keep this? Absolutely. It's a reminder that success depends on perspective and timing. And that public perception doesn't match reality, he asked. And that public perception is almost always irrelevant to the work that matters, I replied. Lisa smiled. You know what's funny? You're still exactly the same as in high school. Oh, so? Completely absorbed in your projects, oblivious to half the social drama, and convinced you can solve anything if you think about it long enough. Yeah, he laughed. Probably accurate. The only difference is my projects are worth billions now. No, Lisa said, the difference is you have the resources to solve problems that actually matter. As we gathered our coats, Sarah asked one last question. Was it worth it? The secrecy, the deception? Letting people think you'd failed? I glanced around the ballroom, at the fading decorations, the crumpled programs, the awards table now mostly empty. Ask me in 10 years, I said, when we see whether Orion Dynamics actually helps humanity instead of just replacing it. And if it didn't work, then maybe I'd truly have been the least successful person at this reunion after all. Driving home in my 15-year-old Toyota, I thought about the moment my classmates' expressions had shifted from smug pity to stunned recognition. Tomorrow, the Forbes article would go live. By Monday, the IPO would make me one of the most visible entrepreneurs in tech. But tonight, I was still just Naomi Parker, the billionaire who won an award for being least successful and planned to keep it as proof that success is never as simple as it looks. If my story made you rethink how success looks, let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. Subscribe to follow what happens next. And remember, never let other people's perception define your worth. Focus on impact, not applause, and the rest will follow.